Welcome. Today is Thursday, March 21st, 2024. It is 3 p.m. We are in the council chambers of the Township of Greater Madawaska. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the March 21st, 2024 regular council meeting at 3 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. All in favor? That is carried. Please stand for O Canada. Thank you. Please be seated. As we gather in chambers, I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of council, our community, that we are meeting on unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We would also like to thank all generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Thank you. Miigwech. Section 2.1, approval of agenda additions or deletions. Resolution, please.
That the agenda of the council meeting of March 21st, 2024 be approved as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second. Councillor Tripp. All in favor? That is carried. Section 3.1, approval of minutes. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following minutes are approved by council. February 12th, 2024, public meeting. February 13th, 2024, public meeting. February 15th, 2024, regular council meeting. February 29th, 2024, special council meeting. And March 14th, 2024, public meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Popke. These were distributed earlier. All in favor for accepting? That is carried. Section 3.2, acceptance of minutes. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the following minutes are accepted by council. January 15th, 2024, Canada Day Committee, and January 24th, 2024, Recreation and Culture Committee.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second. Councillor Popke. All in favor? Carried. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? There is none seen. Thank you. Section 5.1, marketing strategy, Cinnamon Toast Inc. Resolution, please.
That council receive the Township of Greater Madawaska Marketing Implementation Plan as information.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second. Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
So we have today Andrea and Laura from Cinnamon Toast, and they will be presenting the marketing implementation plan.
Thank you. Are you able to hear us?
We are. Thank you so much, Mayor Weir and councillor members. I just need to, I'm hoping to share my screen, which it looks like I can do here. So I'm going to start there. Perfect. Okay, the infamous question, can everybody see my screen? Is that a yes? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
fantastic.
sorry.
All right. No, that's okay. No worries. I just can't see anybody anymore. So I just wanted to make sure. So thank you so much for taking the time to hear our short presentation today. We will keep it brief as we want to respect everybody's time. We wanted to go over some of the high level details of our implementation plan and then chat through our recommended action. So just starting with our approach to the project, we of course engaged a number of stakeholder groups, including residents, businesses, community members, visitors, and so on. And we did so in a variety of different formats. So our digital survey, our 2 focus groups, and our one-on-one interviews. And some of the highlights that were pulled out from that diverse range of perspectives was this profound connection to the area's natural beauty and scenery, of course, a passion for the outdoor recreation piece, and then that shared sense of community that emerged as those dominant themes during this stakeholder engagement activities, I should say. Just a view of our implementation plan, vision, and objectives. So we were looking for your marketing efforts through this plan to cultivate that sense of community pride amongst your residents, to promote tourism and attract investments in local businesses and properties, to entice potential residents and families and bolster that local workforce. And then the plan objectives include enhancing visitor engagement and exploration, improving awareness and opportunities for outdoor activities across all 4 seasons, diversifying promotion township-wide, and then forging local partnerships for business growth. So our target audiences for the plan sweep a whole gamut of individuals. So pretty much everybody you can think of is covered here. We wanted to make sure we were capturing as many people as possible across these 7 audiences. So you've got your nature enthusiasts and your adventure seekers, your business investors, your cottage lifestyle enthusiasts, your culinary explorers, history buffs, and community ambassadors. So lots of touch points there, and all of our recommendations have various pieces that would appeal to all of the audiences. Now getting into our plan recommendations. So recommendation number 1 would be surrounding strengthening tourism strategies. So this would be done in a variety of different ways, from outdoor activity guides and itineraries to digital campaigns that would happen seasonally, accessible wayfinding so that people can find their way around your communities, as well as influencers and user-generated content. So relating to the social media piece and really amplifying those channels. Recommendation 2 would be around enhancing business partnerships. So this would be partnership opportunities with established entities who can really sort of leverage Greater Madawaska's reach. So there'd be like Ottawa Valley Tourist Association, for example, or the Ontario Highlands Tourism Organization, and then as well as implementing a variety of community events. Recommendation number 3 is surrounding your marketing collateral. So here we're suggesting to implement a variety of PR tools and tactics. So whether that be media pitches or press releases, we're recommending a social media toolkit. So that involves a number of different pieces, from policies around social media to brand guidelines, just to make sure that that's all really cohesive. And then a content bank. So one of the challenges we find in our communities is a lack of access to photography and videography and the pieces that really underpin your marketing efforts. So we really want to make that a focal point as well as part of recommendation number 3. And then the recommendation that we are recommending for actioning, of course, is around township rebranding. So this would include a revitalized logo, some new color schemes, definitely some messaging and narratives to sort of share what Greater Madawaska is all about, and then a style guide, which will tie it all together and really make it clear how this brand would be used and replicated across different assets and channels. And so, of course, I think the next question all people have is, why should we rebrand? And there's a number of reasons why we always recommend this for communities. And so a revitalized rebrand offers a lot of benefits, ranging from enhanced tourism and investment industry that attracts consumers and nurtures growth. Additionally, of course, it helps differentiate your community and make it stand out from competing destinations. It forges these strong emotional connections with your audiences. You know, the goal, of course, is to create something that people are excited about and they want to wear and champion. Displaying the community's distinct assets and exciting experiences and giving it a platform to do so. sparking curiosity in tourists and increasing the number and length of visits. I think when people see a really eye-catching logo and brand and messages all together, they're always excited to go see what it's all about. You're going to be helping to attract repeat business and drive investment to the area. And then facilitating that renewed sense of civic pride. Again, going back to, is this a brand that people want to wear? Are they excited about it? And then providing that polished platform from which you can mobilize these marketing messages. So recommending this as a starting point for this project, because if you have this really polished platform, then you can leverage everything off of it in a really cohesive and exciting way. So just to give you a bit of an insight as to some of the brands that CT itself has developed in the past, this is one of our more recent brands for the city of Welland. It has thankfully won a number of awards in recent history and really kind of captures the innovative spirit of the place while still infusing some color and some really fun things in there. So just give you a sense of that one. We also did the city of Vaughan. We did a number of brands and sub-brands for the city, as you can kind of see here. They were really striving to be captured as, again, that innovative place to do business and to experience different tourism assets. And so we created a suite of pieces here and logos. And then we have Deep River. So Deep River was a little bit more of a wholesome, vibrant, homegrown type brand that we wanted to go for. They also have a very large attachment to the outdoors, which you can kind of see reflected in the logo here. So just to give you a sense of what we did for them. And then last but not least, we have Southwold. So this place is very agricultural oriented, which I think you can kind of see captured in this brand. We really wanted to showcase those rolling fields and the sunrise and the sunset as an indication to new opportunity. So this is one of our more exciting brands as well. So just to give you a sense of what we can achieve. And now I think I will flip it back over to Jenna or Renee to kind of speak on next steps. And I'm also open to questions if you have them.
Again with my mic on. Thank you.
It's okay, no worries.
Jenna, do you want to expand on anything at this point, or should I open up to council for any questions?
Open to council.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to speak to the report or try to answer as best I can, for sure.
Perfect, thank you. Looking to council, any questions from council or comments, concerns, or discussions? Councillor Tripp?
I just have a comment. I want to congratulate all of the team that put this together. I read through the report and was impressed how you managed to capture the balance in terms of our essence between bringing in business and providing recreational support of the two top pillars. The report, this may be a segue into the next agenda item, but it's a really strong report. Now it's the implementation of it, which I'm hoping is going to be just as exciting as the work getting up to this. But I've been around for a while. We've talked about this over the years. I'm not a council, but just in the community. And it's something that we've aspired to, and I'm really pleased to have seen it come together with such professionalism. So well done.
Thanks, Councillor. Thank you. We love our brands and we love these projects, so we're really excited.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
In a way, I'm echoing what Rob just said. I liked the way the consultation with people. You really did. There's a lot more to this. Obviously, this report that we've seen. I don't know if it's available. Yeah, it's available on the website. That really gets into. You really did, in a very short amount of time, talk to the right people, and I think you really did grasp what this area is about, which I don't think I had a handle on. It's such a diverse area. I know anyhow, I think it's well done, and there are some obvious first places to go to for implementation, which I also like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council at this time? No. I'd just like to thank you very much for putting this together. I've read through it, and I understand that the presentation is a sample presentation. There are some things that are in there that were just put in there that will change, and the examples that were put in were just that, examples. They were not hard written in stone or anything, and it's a work in progress. And I greatly appreciate you doing it and putting together, and I thank our staff for working so hard on it as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
So Laura and Andrea, just for next steps, we'll pass the motion, or we'll have council vote on the motion, and then we'll move to the next item for the rebranding recommendation, if you want to stay for that, in case Jenna needs your support.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. So do we, so motion to accept the information? All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We'll now move on to 6.1, marketing implementation plan, rebranding. Resolution, please.
That council approves staff to proceed with implementing, I can't say, Cinnamon Toast Inc.'s rebranding recommendation as determined through the results of the marketing implementation plan.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke? Councillor Tripp, second. Background, please.
The background to this was in 2023, the township was successful in obtaining funds through a RED grant application to embark on a joint marketing strategy and implementation project with Whitewater Region. What went into the marketing strategy plan that you guys see before you was a great deal of research, a lot of working with the community, and a lot of reaching out to try to determine exactly where people wanted to see this township going. So there's a lot to focus on out here, I think, in this area out here. There's a lot of different, history to the area, a lot of natural amenities out here, but there's also a real desire for growth out here and more business investment as well. With the rebranding, it can kind of strategically place you in a position to go forward with that. It helps to distinguish you in a more competitive way from neighboring municipalities. And branding has proven very, very successful in trying to set you in the right path to go in those directions. So the next part of the implementation phase would be working with Cinnamon Toast in order to come up with a brand that is easily recognizable and kind of puts forth the look that we would like to see for Greater Madawaska going forward. I feel like there will be more work with the public, more surveys, engaging with people to try to see, and I'm assuming there will probably be a couple options that we can kind of review as far as what we want to see with the brand going forward. Working with Cinnamon Toast, I think, will be very beneficial in order to do this, because we're working with a very qualified group of individuals who can help put forth the image that we would like to achieve.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, or discussion from council? Councillor Thompson.
I just want to say you might be wondering what's wrong with the old logo. And I always thought it was a nice logo, but things have changed, since it was first developed. It was really developed for a print format on a sign. Social media wasn't taken into, how do you make it into a little icon? A whole lot of things have changed that make it no longer as appropriate. So it's not just a matter of we want to spend money to make pretty pictures. We need to we want to make sure that that logo, when you shrink it down beside the other logo, isn't so tiny that you can't read it. So that's, that alone is a good reason to do this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussions from council? No, I think it's a great initiative, and as Councillor Thompson was mentioning, that if you take a close look at our logo right now, you have the rock, the tree, the island, and the water, and then it looks like it's taken a Word document and sort of plugged it over top of it, so that you really can't separate them out in any way or create, as Councillor Thompson said, a brand that is sizable to our new media, whether that be digital media or social media. So these things need to be taken into consideration, as you said, and these were not around when this was originally done. And I think taking a look at this and getting a fresh view and a fresh ideas is never bad. So I thank you, Jenna, I thank you, Cinnamon Toast, and all the staff that worked on this. And do we need the resolution read again, or no? Okay, all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you very much, everyone from Cinnamon Toast, and have a great day.
Thanks, team.
We will now move on to 7.1, tender for the mixed asphalt. Resolution, please.
The council award tender PW01 2024 HL4 hot mix asphalt for Hudson Lake Road cul-de-sac and Madawaska Road to Bonashare Excavating Inc. for $333,414.55 plus HST.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please, Steve.
Thank you. As part of the 2023 capital budget, council approved proceeding with the resurfacing of Hudson Lake Road cul-de-sac. However, due to some property issues and the project getting finished early fall, staff thought it would be best to hold off to 2024 to complete the project. Council also approved proceeding with the reconstruction of 2.5 kilometer section of Madawaska Road as part of the 2024 capital budget. Staff issued tenders early February, and the tender closing is February 22nd at 1 p.m. Staff opened the tenders at 1:30 and confirmed receipt of 4 tenders. So we had McRae Excavating for $360,341.32, net HST included. GI Paving, $381,315.07, net HE included. Bonashare Valley Excavating, $339,282.65, net HST, and Greenwood Paving at $342,752.10. So staff evaluated the tenders and received based on specifications and requirements outlined in the tender documents. And based on the tender value, based on the evaluation, staff is recommending award the tender as followed. HL4 hot mix asphalt of Hudson Lake cul-de-sac and Madawaska Road to Bonashare Valley Excavating for $333,414.55 plus HST. The financial implications, the award of the HL4 hot mix asphalt cul-de-sac and Madawaska Road has a combined tender value of $339,282.65, including net HST. The 2024 budget allocates $30,000 for Hudson Lake cul-de-sac and $338,067 for Madawaska Road for a combined budget of $368,067. The under expenditure will create a surplus of $28,784 that will be relocated to shortfalls for other 2024 capital project if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Open up to council. Any questions, comments, concerns, or discussion items? No. Thank you, Steve. And it's quite nice to see that we came in under budget. So that's always nice that we can use that somewhere else. All in favor of accepting? That is unanimous. So carried. Section 7.2, tender PW 02-2024-3, resolution, please.
The council award tender PW02 2024 3 cable guide rail supply and installation on Madawaska Road to Boral Fence and Guide Rail Contractors Limited for $58,370 plus HST.
Thank you. Background, Steve?
As part of the 2024 capital budget, council approved the reconstruction of 2.5 kilometer section of Madawaska Road. Staff issued the tenders for the 3 cable guardrail in early February, and the tender closing date at February 22nd at 1 p.m. Discussion opened the tenders on February 22nd at 1:30, confirmed the receipt of 4 tenders. The tenders received were as follows. Boral Fence and Guide Rail Contractors, $59,309.97, including HST. BR Fulton Construction at $93,273. Peninsula Construction at $74,021.50. And 535276 Ontario Incorporated at $89,095.97. Staff evaluated the tenders and received, based on special provisions outlined in the tender and based on the tender value, staff is recommending that tender PW02 2024 3 cable guardrail and installation on Madawaska Road to Boral fence and guardrail construction for the $58,370 plus HST.
Thank you, Steve. And before I ask for council questions, comments, or concerns or discussions, I made a mistake. I did not ask for a mover and a seconder prior to asking for background, so we can do that now. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, Councillor Popke for seconder, and we've already received the background due to my mistake. Do we have any questions from council? There are none seen. All in favor? That is so carried. Thank you, and I apologize for the mistake. Move on to 7.3, tender resolution is 51-24. Resolution, please.
The council award tender PW03 2024 one four-wheel drive, 1-ton heavy-duty truck to Butler GM for $70,994 plus HST.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Popke. Background, please, Steve.
As per the asset management plan, the 2015 Chev truck at the Griffiths Garage is to be replaced in 2024. So staff issued tender for the one four-wheel drive, 1-ton heavy-duty truck in early February. The tender closing date was February 22nd. Staff opened the tenders on February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. and receipt of only one tender. That was Butler GM at $72,243.49. Staff recommend the tender receive met specification requirements outlined in the tender documents. Therefore, staff is recommending the tender to Butler GM. Financial implications, the new 1-ton truck was approved as part of the 2024 capital budget in the amount of $110,000. The excess funds of $37,756 will be used to purchase the snow plow, the sander, and the dump box to go with it.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion from council? Councillor Thompson?
I'm just curious about the difference between the budget and the final quote. Was it just a better quote, or was there a difference in the vehicle that?
Like between the 110,000?
Yeah.
The 110 is for the actual, we got to purchase the snow plow, you have to go on the front of it, the sander to go in the back of it, and the dump box that goes on it as well. This is just for the truck itself.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concern, discussion items? None seen. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. 7.4, resolution 52-24. Background, or resolution, please.
The council award tender PW05 2024 granular M and granular B type 2 various roads and capital projects as follows. Group number 1, Calabogie area to Miller Aggregates, a division of Miller Paving Limited for $39,600 plus HST. Group number 2, Gaker area to RJ Sal Sand and Gravel Limited for $20,850 plus HST. And group number 4, Capital Road Project Fraser Road to Miller Aggregates, a division of Miller Paving Limited for $41,580 plus HST. And Capital Road Project Madawaska Road to RJ Sal and Sand Limited for $106,599.50 plus HST.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Popke. Background, please, Steve.
Council approved the 2024 operating and capital budget, which includes the purchase of loose top maintenance gravels, plus the road reconstruction 2.5 kilometer section of Madawaska Road and the 1.4 kilometer section on Fraser Road. Staff issued the tenders in early February, closing date on February 22nd at 1 p.m. Staff opened the tenders on February 22nd to the receipt tenders as follows. So Group 1, Calabogie area, Miller Aggregate at $40,296.96. Montesher Valley Excavating at $46,000. $82.02. The Dacre area, RJ Cell, sand and gravel for $21,216.96. Bonnechere Valley Excavating, $25,185.60. And for the Griff of the Madawaska area, RJ Cell, sand and gravel was $33,779.23, and Bonnechere Valley Excavating was $37,839.46. Group 4, the capital projects, RJ Cell, sand and gravel, bid on Madawaska Road only for $106,599.50. Bonnechere Valley Excavating bid on Madawaska and Fraser. Madawaska Road was $118,420, and Fraser Road was $43,302. Miller Aggregate, they only bid on Fraser Road for $41,580. Staff evaluated the tenders received based on specification requirements outlined in the tender documents and their values. Staff recommend not awarding Group 3 as the tender came in higher than anticipated. Therefore, staff recommend issuing another tender for crushing of the township-owned granulars to provide material for ongoing annual maintenance. Based on the evaluation, staff is recommending the award as tenders as followed. Group 1 to Calabogie area to Miller Aggregate and Division of Miller Paving for $39,600. Group 2, the Dacre area to RJ Cell Sand and Gravel for $20,850 plus HST. Group 4, Capital Road Project Fraser Road to Miller Aggregate and Division of Miller Paving for $41,580 plus HST, and the Capital Road Project Madawaska Road to RJ Cell and Son for $106,599.50 plus HST. The financial implications, the award of Group 1 and Group 2 is $61,513, including net HST. This will be covered by the 2024 operating budget for loose top maintenance. The award of Group 4 will be covered by the 2024 capital budget as follows. The capital budget for granular for Madawaska Road was $105,600. And the tender price was $108,475.65, including net HST, which is $2,875 over budget value. The capital budget for Fraser Road was $40,740, and the tender price was $42,311.81, including net HST, which is $1,571 over budget value. The over expenditures of the capital projects will be funded by the reallocation of capital surplus from the other 2024 capital projects.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from the council? Councillor Thompson.
I'm just curious about crushing our own gravel. Is that always the least expensive solution, or why would, yeah, please explain.
This is actually the first time the township's ever done anything like this. We got a whole bunch of limestone rock given to us from the dam project. It's piled in our yard to be crushed. So now that that project's all done, this year is the first year we finally got the pile signed over to us last year. So we're going to try this. This is all a new venture. We're going to put a tender out, get the quotes, see what they're like, and go from there.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No, thank you. And Steve, I know to do the forecasting on such large projects and coming in with only like a $4,000 variance is extremely good and well done on your part. So I thank you for that and your due diligence on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Second by Councillor Tripp. Background, please. Steve?
The 2024 capital budget included the road construction for a section of Fraser Road. Staff issued the tenders early February, closing date February 22nd, 1 p.m. Staff opened the tenders on February 22nd at 1:30 and confirmed the receipt of 3 tenders as follows. Greenwood Paving at $87,658.10, including net HST. Duncor Enterprise Incorporated at $155,869.86, and Miller Paving Limited at $140,611.97. Based on the evaluation, staff is recommending award the tender as followed. The tender PW06 2024 double surface treatment 1.4 kilometer Fraser Road to Greenwood Paving Limited for $86,142 plus HST. The financial implications, the budget amount for this project was $83,006, and the award of the double surface treatment on Fraser Road is $87,658.10, including net HST, results in $4,652 over the budget value. The over expenditure will be funded by the relocation of the capital surplus fund from the other 2024 capital projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items? There are none seen. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We will now move on to 7.6, Resolution 54-24. Resolution, please.
That council award RFP PL01 2024 Black Donald Pit expansion to JP2G Consultants, Inc. at a total cost of $57,618 plus HST.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
Thank you. So this report just follows the memo that went to council last month regarding expanding our Class B aggregate pit, which is located adjacent to Hydro Dam Road. So currently our pit spans at 4 hectares, which is 9.88 acres, and we're looking to expand it another 2.53 hectares, which is 6.25 acres into Crown land. So to do this, the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry requires us to submit a new application, and there are several technical reports needed to support the application. So we went out to RFP in early February to engage the services of a company to complete the necessary technical reports to support the new application. The RFP closed on February 23rd, to which we received 2 tenders, JP2G Consultants Inc. at $57,618 plus HST, and Stantec Consulting Limited at $93,343.65 plus HST. Staff evaluated the proposals based on the required technical reports needed to complete the project, and based on this, we're recommending that the RFP for the expansion be awarded to JP2G Consultants Incorporated at the cost of $57,618 plus HST. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Councillor Popke.
I'm just curious, is this expansion for purchase, or is it to lease the extended 2.8 hectares or whatever it is?
So because it is Crown property, I believe that it's essentially like a permit or a license. I'm not entirely sure how we do it now, but basically we would have to pay royalties on the sand and such that we take from there. Yeah.
Thank you. Follow up?
I got another question then. Is this going to be gated to the public? The Skidoo Trail goes right by there. I know there's a gate on one side of it, but not on the other.
So we made a new road in there a year ago. So there's no more Skidoo Trail. It doesn't go through the gravel pit. We made an off-road, so it's gated now that there's no public access into the gravel pit. So the road is open for the snowmobile trail.
Thank you. Any supplemental or any other questions from council? No, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Move on to Section 8, Protective Services Department, 8.1, Resolution 55-24. Resolution, please.
That council directs staff to proceed with an RFP or competitive group purchasing procurement for a pumper tanker to replace the 1989 Volvo tanker.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Counselor Thompson, second by Counselor Tripp. Background, please, Fire Chief.
So in 2018, the MTO added criteria, which ended up having us get rid of our tanker in place. So at that time, McNabb had a 1989 tanker, which we were able to purchase. It filled the void. We were supposed to be replacing it within 3 to 5 years. The 1989 tanker has now exceeded its life expectancy. It's 35 years old, has 420,000 kilometers on it, and also a standard transmission, which limits the drivers for the truck. In preparation for the replacement of the tanker, the 2024 long-range capital forecast includes the retirement of the 1989 tanker and the purchase of the pumper tanker in 2025. The township purchased 2 frontline pumpers, one for Calabogie in 2008, one for Griffith in 2009. NFPA standards, as well as the Fire Underwriter Survey, recommend replacing your frontline trucks every 15 years, 20 years for small communities like us. So mathematically, that's coming up in 2028 for Calabogie. Following this recommendation, the township will need to start forecasting the purchase of new frontline pumpers in the near future. Staff recommends purchasing new and not used due to NFPA years of service requirements. Purchasing used may be lower in cost, but will be replacing sooner. The procurement of a pumper tanker would replace the aged tanker and could serve as the frontline truck in 2028. Moving the current frontline truck to serve as a second line truck, meeting the recommendations set out by FUS and NFPA. This apparatus would allow the fire department to push water into areas. So I'm sure, as everyone's well aware, we have long driveways here, windy roads. We can set up 2 pumpers and relay water without having to send trucks in and out of some of these rough driveways. It also provides safety backup. So on scenes, if a frontline pumper were to fail, both halls will be equipped with a second backup pumper. So everyone will be comfortable. As we've experienced in the past, this type of equipment can normally take up to a year to manufacture. It is imperative to start the procurement process as soon as possible to guarantee a 2025 delivery date, as well as lock in a price. As of right now, the increase is 12 to 15% per year. So the recommendation is that council direct staff to commence the procurement process through RFP or alternatively through a cooperative group purchasing to obtain the best competitive price. Issuing the request for proposal or seeking quotes through cooperative group purchasing has no financial implication, and the cost to procure the apparatus will be incurred in 2025 and included in the capital budget for that year.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Councillor Thompson.
You said it's going to be included in the capital budget for 2025? Do you mean the asset management plan?
Yes, I believe that is where we were pulling that from.
It's currently in the asset management plan, but it would be in the capital budget. So capital budgets, what you're doing is essentially allowing the fire chief to go on and do the tendering process or RFP process. And then they'll be coming back to council to commit the value. So at the next time the fire chief will come in is awarding and committing costs into 2025.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Tripp.
I like the concept of purchasing new as opposed to used in this round. We've been very fortunate with used equipment in the past, but as we grow, the potential demands on this equipment may have an exponential use than we've had historically. So purchasing new, I think, makes perfect sense in this case, and that allows some of our older trucks to be there as backup, as you mentioned. So I would highly recommend that the RFP be for new.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion from council? No, I thank you, Chief, for bringing this forward. Our aging fleet is well aged already, and I think for the protection and safety of the entire community, I think this is a good project to go forward and get RFP, and then that gives us a a good idea of what we're forecasting, so that it's not just jumping up on us very quickly. So thank you for that. So all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Moving on to 9.1, bylaw 16-2024, zoning bylaw amendment 2306.5. Resolution, please.
That council approve bylaw 16-2024, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 22-2003 as amended to rezone part of the lands located in part of lots 23 and 24, concession 5, geographic township of Madawaska from extractive industrial reserve to rural to permit the construction of a residential dwelling on the subject's land.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Popke. Background, please. And who are we going to?
There
There we are.
I think to me, Mr. Mayor, thank you. It's Kent Randall from EcoView Consulting. Nice to sort of see everybody. So I think council's familiar with this application. It was before you last week at a statutory public meeting. The application, as Renee had pointed out, is in the recommendation is to rezone the subject lands, which are located at 4537 Madawaska Road. Rezone those lands from the EMR, the extractive industrial reserve zone, to a rural zone, and just simply to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling. The EMR zone is intended to identify those areas in the township that are within an aggregate reserve. I think those that are familiar with the work that's been going on with the zoning bylaw update might be familiar with the aggregate reserve lands and the requirement from the province to identify those lands down through the county official plan and to your zoning bylaw to identify those lands for future protection, for potential aggregate extraction. So it's intended to identify all these resources within the township, potential resources, so sand and gravel, for potential extraction. So in this case, that EMR zone, that reserve zone, it doesn't permit aggregate extraction, it just simply protects it, but it prohibits any new uses, in particular, any new residential uses. So the applicant has applied to rezone it to the rural just to permit a dwelling to be built there. In support of that application, we required an aggregate resources study, or pardon me, an aggregate assessment. And what that assessment lays out is the reasons why the land should be redesignated from the EMR to the RU. Essentially, both the provincial policy statement and the county's official plan lay out some direction in that regard. If you are to rezone these reserve lands, what sort of steps you need to go through. The primary thing is doing that assessment, and that assessment entails looking at what the composition of the geology is on the site, and generally what the constraints may be to extraction on that site. So in this case, the site is fairly constrained. There's quite a bit of environmental features that are sort of dotted. There's a large wetland through the middle of the property. The proposed dwelling is going to be located south of there, just off Madawaska Road. And there's challenging topography on the site. And there's various pinch points on the site that make it pretty much unfeasible to have any sort of large scale extraction. You could potentially have a wayside pit there, but anything beyond that is not necessarily feasible. So we had reviewed that assessment, and we were that was provided by the applicant, and we were satisfied with the conclusions of that assessment. But it should be pointed out that we were satisfied to the extent that a single detached dwelling could be constructed. When you get beyond that into create lot creation and things like that, that we might need to look for a bit more information if that were ever the case. But in this case, with a single detached dwelling being constructed on the same lot, we're satisfied with the results of that assessment. So as Ms. Maska pointed out, it is our recommendation that the council approve the bylaw, which is included in your agenda package. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Councillor Thompson.
Thanks. How will thank you for that. How will the how will it be that it's now zoned R1, but it's still protected if lot creation, like, is there holdings, like, how is that managed?
Through the chair, the designation on the property is still an aggregate designation. So in the county OP. So if somebody were to move forward with consent application or any further amendment to the zoning on that site, they would have to demonstrate conformity with that designation. So that does still involve reviewing the aggregate on the site to determine if those future uses, whether they be consents or anything else, is compatible or makes sense on that site.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? There are none seen. Does anybody need the resolution reread? No? All in favor? That is so carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Now I'll move on to section 10.1, 2023 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses, Resolution 57-24.
That council accepts the report on the 2023 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses paid to members of council and members of local boards and other bodies pursuant to section 284 of the Municipal Act 2001.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Thompson. And I believe our treasurer will speak to this. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So this report just brings forward the statement of remuneration and expenses paid to council. As per the Municipal Act, Section 284-1, this requires the treasurer annually to bring forward an itemized statement on or before March 31st on remuneration and expenses paid in the previous year to each member of council in respect to his or her services as a member of council. So in compliance with this legislation, this report, the attached report shows itemized details of the remuneration and expenses for 2023.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson. From
Yeah, always me.
I saw your hand going up out of the corner of my eye, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I've always looked at these numbers in the paper and wondered, why are different councillors who are all supposed to be paid the same, why do they have different numbers and their expenses seem to vary all over the place? And thank you very much for filling me in on that. There's a lot more to it than what I see in my tax return. There are other expenses for employment that go on, and they vary depending on the person, their age, and even the size of the township. And expenses include not just the travel that I billed for, but the actual registration at the very valuable municipal association meetings. So I just wanted to explain that, we're not all blowing it on $18 orange juices, because that I needed that explained to me, so I thought I should. And if there's anything else you'd like to explain better.
So basically, in summary, remuneration is the salary paid as well as any employer statutory costs like CPP, HT. And then going on to the travel, the expenses are anywhere related to training, courses, cell phone, anything related to fulfilling their duty as the official member of council.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussion items? Nope, none seen. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. We now move on to 10.2, short-term accommodations review, resolution 58-24. Resolution, please.
That council approve licensing short-term accommodations and that council direct staff to circulate the attached revised bylaw, which includes adjustments to meet the township's objectives and community input to the community through a survey, and that the council direct staff to present a final bylaw, licensing fee, and implementation strategy at a future council meeting.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Oh, so do we have a mover? I almost did it again. It's one of those days. Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. Background, please.
Okay, so you have my presentation, Robin. So I prepared a small presentation, and it's just to kind of highlight the items that are within the report of findings. So what we have is in 2023, council approved the strategic plan 2023 to 2026, which identifies growth management as a strategic goal. Within that, it also has regulate short-term accommodations. The description to that is that staff will review and recommend options for the regulation of short-term accommodations, which is why we're here today. Through the process, we were able to compile information through data analysis and community engagement to inform discussions and in decision-making for council. So the report of findings speaks to the objective of the bylaw. It speaks to a framework that aims to strike a balance between allowing residents to benefit from SDAs while recognizing their impact on neighbors and the community. And then in return, we would get and maintain a registry of SDAs to compile data for housing market analysis, bylaw enforcement, and growth management. The data analysis included a review of our housing needs assessment, property assessment impacts, and short-term accommodations market. The housing needs assessment was completed by the township in the summer of 2023. This was intended to highlight what is the need within the township in development. We have a lot of single dwellings, and we have a shortage of long-term rentals. We have 80 rentals throughout the municipality. And this was posed as an issue with businesses within the area, stating, their workers can't afford to live here or rent here. And then there was this other highlight, which is home sharing. So home sharing to enhance affordability. So it speaks to, the ability to supplement costs through SDAs. And then also long-term rentals. So this is just intended to highlight what do we need? Because when reviewing short-term accommodations and the impacts on our community, the positive and negative, we have to consider the picture as a whole. So this is a bit of a snapshot of our housing needs assessment. Another impact is property assessment. So residential STAs are classified as residential properties, regardless if they're operating as commercial. And so when I talk about impacts on future assessment, I don't mean the person renting their home or renting next door. I'm referring to investors building short-term accommodations within our community at a larger value intended to only drive revenues. They may not live in the area. And what happens there is they're able to sell that home for a larger value just because it's a business. You're selling a business. There's a revenue that somebody can incur by purchasing it. So what happens there is the value can be driven up, impacting assessment. There's no difference within assessment. There's residential is residential and commercial is commercial. There's no residential commercial. So this is with property assessment. We haven't had a real review since 2016, but this may impact, and there's a lot of assumption, right? These things haven't happened yet, but they influence it. Property assessment is based off of sale between properties within your community within that area. The short-term accommodations market, this is just a snapshot of February 2024. So it's demonstrating the number of active SDA listings. So in April of 2023, we had 160, and you could see it driving up a bit. And then in an off, I would call it the non-peak season, which is February 2024, we have 243. This is pulled from a company called Granicus. They do an assessment. They're able to pull off Airbnb, VRBO, Expedia, and see what's out there. So you could see that there's more of a, there's more STAs in certain areas. I mean, you can see around Calabogie area, you know, within the mapping, you can view where there's more STAs compared to other areas. So we recognize that it's not the same across the board. It's not saturated within, you know, the whole township. The other aspect of the review includes community consultations. So we did a community survey and public meetings. So the community survey had 383 participants completed the survey, which is great for the township. And within the survey, there's a few questions that we're trying to aim on what are we looking at. The survey came in before the public meeting. The intent is to see, is there a real concern? Are we looking at something on the outside residents? So within the participants, there was 53% that responded that did not operate an STA. And then there was 29% that operated one, and then 18% that just lived near an STA. Just to kind of understand the perspective, I found that within our public meetings, maybe weighted more on operators, where the survey has a 53% of non-operators. And then here we were trying to see, is there support? Is there support for regulating? So you could see here we have supportive of SDAs with no changes or regulations at 45%. Then we have a 38% of supporting some sort of regulation, compliance, and monitoring and enforcement. And then there's a 12% that is no support for SDAs. So you could see where we're heading with this. It's just this balance of trying to understand the view. So we're kind of always sitting in the middle of a 50-50. And then the other is people that provided comment. They didn't fit within one of these boxes. They fit between, I guess. And then again, should Greater Madawaska regulate SDAs? We're sitting at a 40% that feel we should develop policies, and we have a 43% that feel we should not develop policies. And then we have a 9% that feels it should be area specific. So that just kind of balanced the reason why we went into public meetings, I would say. And just to gain more input on what does that look like. And then again, impact, I mean, in your opinion, does short-term accommodations have a negative impact on your community? The respondents, 37% said it did not, and, 37% said there was a negative impact, whereas 63% said there was no negative impact. So within the negative impact, the top concerns are listed here and within the report. They just refer more of nuisances and public safety concerns, environmental issues. And there's some really supportive comments for SDAs, which is, it provides more options for tourist accommodations, some flexibility for property owners, and then contributes to the economy. So in summary, what we were hearing is that individuals are in favor of permitting short-term accommodations with the implementation of regulations to mitigate concerns as identified in this section. So really what it's summarizing is that there's no strong, yes, we should, there's no strong, we don't want this. So we're able to say, okay, well, short-term accommodations are community, we all agree short-term accommodations are a benefit to our community. And then the other piece is what does that look like? And what we're seeing is there's a benefit to having some sort of data and some sort of ability to better understand that more of that new sector. So we went off into public meetings. So we had 2 public meetings estimated at about 80 residents attended. We read 7 written comments and 41 residents provided oral comments. I found that this was a bit of a turning point for how this review came to light, because it provided such good information on If we were to consider it, what does that look like? What can an STA owner do? How can we support our residents that have a neighbor that, you know what I mean, that they feel like we should regulate this? How can we meet in between? So some concerns we heard at the public meetings were some of the requirements. I'll just kind of skim through them. Insurance requirements was concerned, you know, some already get them, some get it through Airbnb. The cost to SDA providers, the cost to the taxpayers, which we're trying to demonstrate that what we're looking for is more cost recovery. The big one was short-term accommodation complaints, that there's no complaints. And with not identifying short-term accommodations, we're not able to categorize complaints as short-term accommodation complaints. So that's the reality, right? There's a hosted versus unhosted, I thought was interesting, because there should, you know, there's consideration for that, but without understanding what we have out there, it's difficult to decide to pivot around hosted and unhosted and what does that look like. The impact on the tourism industry, I mean, this is a positive. We do not have much accommodations here. We have a lot of tourism here. There's a great benefit in having short-term accommodations. Current bylaw enforcement and response issues were highlighted. The bylaw is not intended to replace any current bylaws. So it was written a bit, the draft was a draft that's used across the province. It was intended to start a conversation. It really did. It started this conversation of, you know, the focus on, we have a noise bylaw. This is not intended to replace the noise bylaw. The noise bylaw is standalone. This is just, this component here is intended to be able to say, hey, if we have repeat concerns of a noise bylaw issues within a home or a short-term accommodation, we have an owner that we can contact in a registry. It comes back to registry. And then, so the focus really of the public meeting concerns were around these items. The report goes more into detail on them. So in summary, the public meeting included opposition and support to regulating SDAs and support with recommended adjustments to the bylaw. So what we have is we've adjusted the bylaw to better reflect the intent of it. So the bylaw intent removes big items, you know, owner response time, limit guest rooms and occupancy, age of guests, age restriction, demerit points. And then the implementation timeline, there was a date in there. The intent is not to have a date right now. We're still trying to iron out what this is going to look like. And then the bylaw was too extensive. So the bylaw has been nearly cut in half. It's intended to really meet our needs, which I would say is more around developing a registry, being able to have homeowners just declare that, you know, they meet building code and fire code, and that they have a safe home for occupants, and then being able to have a contact information for people to, you know, if there's any concerns with fire. You know, we've had, you know, when bylaw enforcement's attending the site or fire or the CBO, we have somebody to contact to respond to some of the concerns. And then also the draft bylaw has added this checklist. The intent is really to simplify some of the items. Some are, you know, the site plan and floor plan. We heard that to scale, you know, that's a lot. It seems the intent is really by hand. It's just identify locations of the list of items within the bylaw. So what we're here today is basically we're providing council with the report of findings. The recommendations are provided here. There's options for council. We have provided a recommendation to approve the licensing short-term accommodation, and then developing an actual process and policy in bylaw that meets our needs and working with the public to do so. The reason for this is, like I said, the intent of the bylaw is to be able to build and really assess what we have. We're trying to manage growth and what the community looks like, and we want to be able to see that. And then the intent of approving, for council to consider approving licensing on this option is to direct staff. If you would like us to continue exploring this versus it's more of a decision to continue exploring, and if yes, we will come back with different options and what that looks like, the fee structure. Within the report, you can see a fee that's not the final fee. That was to provide an example of what that would look like. This would be more finalized if it came back to council. Council could also choose to finalize the draft version of the initial bylaw. I would not recommend that. It was extensive. And then we wouldn't be able to apply it. And then the other option council has is to not proceed with regulating short-term accommodations at all. And the reason it's not currently included as a recommendation is because we're considering just the long term. We're growing. We don't know what it looks like. At the public meetings, we heard that we don't have data, and why are we doing this? And it's because we don't have data. And we need to start collecting data to better manage growth and what the future looks like for us. And I'm open to answering questions, yeah.
Thank you, Renee. We're going to open the floor to council. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items? Councillor Popke.
I just want to say that I read this report in the bylaw. I think it's pretty well written. There's a few little things that might be able to be tweaked a little bit, but overall, I think it's heading the township in the right direction on where things should be. Like, I grew up here my whole life. I've seen the way things were, I've seen the way things are going, and I think this is a great way to bring balance to both newcomers and old-time residents. So I think it's a good thing myself.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Thompson?
This is a big thing to consider, and I like the community involvement. No matter what anyone had to say, it was all taken in and considered very seriously. There was none of this, we're doing it this way, you're doing, no. To have that number of participants, with the survey, come out and talk to us, we can't do any legislation unless we do that. And so we started off with something that was cookie cutter. We had to start somewhere, right? And I think staff has done a wonderful job of developing a way to bring it forward. And I didn't like that first one either, but it gave me a way to look at it and go, wait a minute, shouldn't that be covered by law enforcement? Shouldn't, oh, it already is? Like, what we have to tailor it for us. And I can see with this next version that we just are looking at now, all of everybody's comments were considered and are put into it. And we know that we've got an overwhelming backing from people saying, I don't know what it's going to look like, but yeah, we should do something. And in that, there's a consideration that a lot of us tend not to think of. Okay, today it's not a problem, but as we grow and we get huge developments, and they're happening, and we don't have any way of knowing which, it could be a whole development bought by an investor, and they're all short-term rentals. And we just need to know where they are. It's a bit of catch-22. If you have to, we have no information. So in order to get information, we have to put in a bylaw to say, let's regulate. But we don't know if we really need the bylaw until we get the bylaw to get the info. I said that badly, but anyhow, this step isn't saying, well, the recommendation isn't to take this new one and say, this is how we want to do it. It's to take this new one, take it back to people and say, are we getting closer? But the overwhelming idea is, yeah, I think for the future of this township, we need to do something, regulate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you. I'm going to echo what Lois had just said. I think we share many of the same thoughts around this. It is a huge file. It's a big decision for the township and for the community and the members in the community. And I think this is one of the signs of growth that we all talked about during the election, and how do we shape the community that we want to live in 10 years from now. The first draft bylaw was essential to give us a place to start talking. It would be impossible for a piece of legislation like this to come out in first form and meet everyone's needs, but it got us to the point where we could talk. Unfortunately, I wasn't available to be at the open houses. I was on duty travel out of the country, but I stayed in touch with colleagues to get a flavor of the engagement. And one of the nice things about this process is everybody had a voice. Even if it was against what you felt to be right, you had that voice. And it allowed us to have open and free conversations, which brought us to a table where we're seeing this through different lights. You know, short-term accommodations, when it started, I've been stopped in the streets as recently as 2 days ago from a lady who rents out her room in her house. She's done this for 10 or 15 years, 4 times a year for $100. So she's not making any money. She lives in the house and is not the issue that we're presented with. And then there are out of city, out of country numbered companies who are buying up properties and filling them with as many people as possible. And as we saw on the map, the difference between what is in around the lake in Calabogie up the river is completely different than what's in Griffith. So the regulation process, while I can see it being perceived as archaic, is really just an opportunity to get the numbers so we can start making plans, because in another 5 years, we're at 243 now, we could easily be at 400 in 5 years. We need to start somewhere to get a list, and we don't, for those that we need to regulate against, which are the minority, we need a piece of legislation to give us that authority to move forward. We talk about noise bylaw. The only piece of legislation we have now on our books is to do with the noise infraction, but it's on the track and loud party noises. It doesn't get into the issues we're looking to protect against now. So I know that there is concern over the term regulation, but I would suggest it's really there as a tool to help us take what staff has done, come up with a new piece of refined a draft, which is significantly different from the first, half the size, taken a lot of the things out that we felt should come out. This is giving us the opportunity to go to the next step and further refine that to get closer to the point that all elements of our township, and it's a variety of different needs, can be met under something that is not archaic, but is really there to help all of us shape this so that in 5 or 10 years from now, when we have a lot of people coming in, we have a sense of growth, we have a sense of the impact, but we have a sense of what we need to support those who, you know, live on a piece of property with a short term right next door or down the road. They're part of the community, they're in the community, they care about the community, versus the large places that are coming in where we're seeing parties at 2 o'clock in the morning with 14-foot bonfires going on in the laneway, and when residents approach them, it gets on the verge of fisticuffs. So those are the two spectrums. How do you create a piece of legislation that covers that? And I think that option one is the first step. It's not the definitive end of where we'll land, but it gets us to this next step where we can start addressing it, but without having ability to create a licensing, so we know where people are, what their needs are. We can support those families that use this as an economic driver, who live in their house, rent out a room to help pay the mortgage, is completely different than a short-term rental that is 14 people and 27 cases of party. So I certainly support option one, recognizing it's not the end of this story, it's just another step in our process of getting to something that makes sense for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from council? None, then I will make mine then. I believe that this short-term accommodations is vital to our community. We do lack the amount of accommodation available if we did not have them for the amount of resident or tourists that we have. It does, though, affect the growth development of the township. It affects community character and what we'd like as this type of community. It also can also put at risk the safety of occupants renting, whether that be building code or whether that be potable water and whether that's posted, whether they can drink the water. It impacts future assessments on the township. I noticed that from April 2023 to February 2024, remembering February is an off season, we went from 160 to 243. Now, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm turning to Renee for this, I believe that we have 1,300 residential homes within our township. And if 243 of those are short-term accommodations, that puts us roughly about 19% of our homes are short-term accommodations in our township. Now, there's a community, I believe it, now don't quote me, I believe it was Collingwood, that has a population of approximately 30,000. They called it a problem and a pandemic when they got to 600 short-term accommodations in their area. That accounts for 2% of their, against their residents, and we are at almost 19%. So having looked at this and seeing that Collingwood believed it a problem at 2%, and we are already at almost 19%, I don't think that that's a problem. I think it's an opportunity for us. I think it's an opportunity for us to engage with people who have short-term accommodations, who we can rely upon for our tourism. And I'm very positive about short-term accommodations. I've used them quite often myself. And the fact is, they're of value to the area, and they're great for tourism. I know some people that actually will not go to a short-term accommodation location if they are not registered, thinking that, okay, I can go to that because the safety standards are there for me. There's also another impact on this. Currently, the Regional Tourism Organization, or as the RTO for the province, delegates money out to each tourist area based on hardcover accommodations. Currently, that only sits with hotels, motels, and bed and breakfast. It does not take into account short-term accommodations. And without having a registry for short-term accommodations, and we do not have a viable argument with the province for regional tourism money, extra money into us. I did a delegation at Roma in conjunction with the county, asking for them to reevaluate the Regional Tourism Organization funding to take into account short-term accommodations. So they're working on that. It looks promising, but if we have the basis and the registration for all of the short-term accommodations to us, that can bring extra funding in for tourism issues within our township. So yes, it's going to be, the registration is going to give us more power to get more money for our township as well. So I'm a proponent of this, and I will leave it up to anyone else for discussion items. Have I missed anything? Thank you. Sorry, sir, there's no participation from the gallery unless the delegation's been put in from last Thursday, so. It was put in, Sir, it was put in today, I believe. That's many days short. That's 7 days short of when it needs to go in. So, thank you. Is there any other further comments from council? None? Do we need the resolution read again, or are we all clear? Councillor Thompson?
I'd like it read again so we're all clear on
Perfect.
just exactly what we're voting for.
Perfect, thank you. Renee?
That council approve licensing short-term accommodations, and that council direct staff to circulate the attached revised bylaw, which includes adjustments to meet the township's objective and community input to the community through a survey, and that the council direct staff to present the final bylaw, licensing fee, and implementation strategy at a future council meeting.
Thank you. Is everybody good with that? All in favor? Oh, excuse me, actually. May I have a recorded vote for this, please? Oh, Councillor Tripp, your microphone is not on, and your microphone's dead.
Thank you. The motion reads bringing back the final bylaw. Is it possible to amend the word final, which I think supports the concept that we're working towards something that we were all in agreement with? Final is so definitive, it may very well come back. The goal is to bring it back and resolve it quickly, but final takes away our opportunity to have further discussion. And I think it's an important message for the community to recognize that it's not the final.
Thank you. I'll just make comment on that. Staff will be engaging with the community. Staff will be redoing the bylaw, taking in consideration what is in the community. And when it says final bylaw that is brought before us, that is the staff's recommendation of the final bylaw. That does not dissuade us from having conversation about that bylaw and asking staff to bring it back to us with a revised. So I'm not sure whether final is a caveat there.
I would prefer the term revised as opposed to final. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments by council? Nope.
I would recommend that we adjust it to present a bylaw. Revise is what we've currently brought forward, and then there's opportunity, will it be revised? How much will it be revised? So it leaves it open as being a bylaw.
Thank you. So do we need to read the resolution altered?
That council approve licensing short-term accommodations, and that council direct staff to circulate the attached revised bylaw, which includes adjustments to meet the township's objective and community input to the community through a survey, and that council direct staff to present a bylaw, licensing fee, and implementation strategy at a future council meeting.
Thank you. And if we could have a recorded vote, please.
Councillor Popke?
All in favor?
I'm for yay, yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Thompson?
Yay.
Councillor Tripp?
Yay.
Mayor Weir?
In favor? Thank you.
All in
Motion-
favor. Motion carried.
Motion is carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to a section 11.1, Appointment, Recreation, and Culture Committee Members. Resolution 59-24.
That council approve the appointment of Kate Zell to the Recreation and Culture Committee.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. And back, Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Tripp. And I will ask our clerk, Robin, to provide us background, please.
So at the December council meeting, council appointed 5 members of the public to the Recreation and Culture Committee. This included the 4 applicants that we got and 1 applicant that we had received for the Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which she kindly agreed to join the committee that we could form because we had enough people. So the Recreation and Culture Committee terms of reference allows for a maximum of 6 members. So with only 5, council had the opportunity to appoint another one. Right after the closing, we did receive another application. Eligibility was reviewed and confirmed, and during the first committee meeting, we reviewed it with the Recreation and Culture Committee, and unanimously they agreed that we should invite her to attend. And so staff is recommending that Ms. Zale is appointed to the committee as the 6th member.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? None seen. Oh, Councillor Thompson.
I was just going to say, this is a community member who's involved in a lot of boards. So yeah, we're not going to turn her down. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. 11.2, policy 1-18, committees, boards, local authorities. Resolution 60-24. Resolution, please.
That council rescind policy 1-03, municipal committees, policy -04, or committee structure, policy 1-05, citizen appointments by council to boards and committees, and policy 116, mandate and meeting procedures for committees.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp? Councillor Popke? Background, please. Is it Robin, our clerk again?
Can I just?
Yeah, I think
That council
maybe there was a
approve-
little bit of the motion that was
That
missed.
council approve policy 1-18, committees, local boards and authorities, and that council rescind policy 1-03, municipal committees, policy 104, committee structure, policy 105, citizen appointments by council to boards and committees, and policy 116, mandate and meeting procedures for committees.
We will have a mover. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Tripp to second. And background, please, Robin.
So yes, we're recommending that we, that council accepts and approves a new policy and then rescinds all these older policies. As part of the current strategic plan, one of the objectives to be actioned in order to meet the goal of efficient and effective governance was to ensure that bylaws and policies reflect the current requirements of the township. Therefore, staff has undertaken a review of everything currently that the bylaws and policies. So during the review that I started, I found some that are still appropriate and still applicable, don't need major changes. They'll just get some administrative revisions, but with no changes to the meaning or scope or procedures. But there was some that I found so far that did need some revisions. There was some overlapping between the several committee type policies of the list of ones that I've asked to, or recommending to be rescinded. They were repetitive, overlapping. Some of the procedures weren't applicable anymore, and some things were missing. So, and I also reviewed some policies from other municipalities to make sure we were covering everything. So the new policy encompasses the current applicable purposes, scope, procedures relating to the committees and local boards. It outlines the establishment of committees, the recruitment and selection process that we currently use, and term of appointment, attendance, conduct, and more. Staff is recommending the approval of this all-encompassing new 1.18 policy and rescinding the other ones. Thank
Sorry,
you.
my iPad's about to die on me and I'm trying to get the power on it. I'm still listening, and I did read it before I got here.
It's dark down here.
Don't worry about it. Okay.
It is dark.
Yes. Is there any questions from council? Discussion items? There are none seen. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried, and sorry for the distraction. Now moving on to section 11.3, information item, update of Canada Day. Councillor Tripp.
Thank you very much. This will be a very short update. We met this morning, so this is a very fresh update. Plans are moving along nicely. We're well on track. We have a very strong team of volunteers, and that's growing. The meeting this morning, we had representatives from our other two wards as well at the table, trying to find a way to work a bit more collaboratively with them and looking for ways where we can support them, because the machinery within Calabogie is quite strong for Canada Day. Traditionally, there's been a smaller team working in our two other wards, so we're trying to reach out and find ways to help them. The activities are coming along nicely. There will be some changes we'll be announcing in the short term, which I think is going to bring us into a few more activities and attractions that we've had in the past. But things that need to be booked have been booked. And we'll have more to come in the next 2 months is when things really start to happen. It's been planning up until now. Things now are starting to fall into place as per the plan, but no concerns. We're tight on budget. We may come back with very minor requests. We're increasing our fundraising to cover some of those, but it's just the cost of things going up. The bouncy castles, the band, the fireworks, these are all things that have creep on us. And we're waiting to hear from our funding application to the federal government. We've traditionally received money, and that is announced in April. So once we have that money announced, we can then have a tighter look at the budget and talk about go-forward strategies. Any questions? Thank you.
No, thank you for taking the lead on that. 11.4 Recreation Culture Committee update. Councillor Levesque is not here today. Had he sent any information to any of us to update? No, there is no update. We will now move on to section 12.1, Cemetery Transfer, Abandonment, Administration, and Management Support, Resolution 61-24.
That council support the resolution passed by the Council of Township during their December 20th, 2023 council meeting regarding the provincial cemetery management support request, including that the province, through the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery and the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, consider several points of concern to assist municipalities in the growing concern of cemetery transfers. And furthermore, that a copy of this resolution and copy of Township's resolution be circulated to the Honorable Todd McCarthy, Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery, Jim Casamatas, BAO Interim CEO Register, John Yakabuski, MPP for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, and all Ontario municipalities.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. Background on this is, I'll summarize what was done in Township to the effect that currently under the Funeral, Burial, and Cremation Services Act, when a church or cemetery is no longer able to take care of the cemetery, it falls upon the municipality to take the ownership of it and expenses. That includes all upkeep of the funeral or of the graveyards and cemeteries itself, which could be a great cost to many townships. And just like churches and small groups that take care of cemeteries, we are under the same burden as they are about funding and allocation of funds. So in essence, what this is asking that if there is any cemeteries that will no longer be supporting themselves or churches that are supporting them, that the cost does not go on to the municipality, it actually goes on to the province. That's a quick summarization of it, and that's something I wanted to bring forward because we do have some older cemeteries around here, and it could become costly to us if in fact we needed to take over all of them. So that's the summary of it. So it's basically it's a letter of support in favor of Township's resolution and signing it and sending it to the applicable people. Is there any questions, comments, concerns, or discussions from council? Councillor Popke.
So if a church abandons, or say it's no longer a church, they have no patrons or whatever you call it, and they become abandoned, nobody's using the building anymore, the graveyard is still there. Is there ways that we can more or less dig these bodies up and relocate them to a certain spot?
You would need, from my understanding, that if you were to do that, it would be at great cost, and you would have to have sign off from every family member or every descendant of that family member, and to do that relocation.
Okay.
So, as I say, that would be great cost as well. But the fact is that it's something that it should not be on the municipality to take care of it. It should be on the province, because as I say, it could cost us a lot of money, and this is why I wanted to bring it forward. Councillor Tripp?
If I could just follow up on that comment. There is precedent for this happening back in the 1950s when they opened up the Seaway Valley. to create the St. Lawrence River, and they relocated a number of homes and a number of graveyards, and it did fall to the province. There was the same discussion about municipalities not bearing that cost. So if there was a thing to move, it's incredibly complex, it's very expensive, and as Mayor Weir said, it's something I think that would be hard pressed for here, but it is possible. It's been done in the past historically. It's an enormous undertaking, and one that, as a municipality, we wouldn't be able to even come close to touching. So to Mayor Weir's support, it's good to support this position here to give us that level of protection if it's ever needed. Unlikely, but it would be needed here.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
There's also a certain amount of irreverence and distastefulness. You know, when you lay your family member to rest, you really want them to rest. But I just want to mention that in Griffith and in Madawaska, we have 2 cemeteries. One was the Catholic cemetery. The church is no longer there. The Catholic diocese tore it down. And I think, though, the Catholic organization is still supporting that one, but there's also a community cemetery in Madawaska that's it's owned publicly and has been owned publicly for years. But as people age and, you know, if the population doesn't support it, we could end up feasibly, the taxpayers, paying for 2. That's without even talking about what would happen if this church went or that church went. So anyhow, yeah, we really do need to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? There are none seen. All in favor of this support? That is unanimous, so carried. We now move on to 12.2, Occupational Health and Safety Definition of Employer, Resolution 62-24. Resolution, please.
That council support resolution CC 2023-303 passed by the council of the City of Greater Sudbury on December 5th, 2023, regarding the amendment of the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer, including that the definition of employer excludes owners that have contracted with a constructor for the township or for a project. And furthermore, that a copy of this resolution and a copy of the City of Greater Sudbury's resolution be circulated to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, and the Honorable David Piscini, Minister of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, and Honorable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, John Yakubaski, MPP for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all of Ontario municipalities.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second. Councillor Popke. Background, this is something that I brought forward is, I will try and summarize Sudbury's position, and I'll give you a bit of background. There was a situation in Sudbury where a private homeowner contracted a person to do work at their house, and that got subcontracted. There was an accident, and the owner of the house was being held liable under the Occupational Health and Safety Act because they were the definition of the employer, because they employed the first group even though it was subbed out to somebody else. Now, the ramifications for that would be that if we had subbed out something such as our work on our roads to a paving group, or we had a tree cutting service, or we had a roofing service, and we have contracted those people, they are their own company, their own entity who have occupational health and safety. They pay their OHIP, they pay everything. If somebody were to get hurt on one of those sites right now, the definition of employer would come back to us as the municipality, even though we have contracted a corporation. So that it creates a very big liability issue. And so I think it's imperative that we get definition and clarity on what employer is through the province, just to protect ourselves, not only just as the township, but as private citizens who, if you contract some guy to do, or company to do your roofing and they fall off, currently right now, you're the employer and you will be fined under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think that we really need to support this to get a proper definition, to create or to reduce liability for all involved within the province. And I'll open it up to council for any questions, comments, concerns, or discussion items.
I'm just surprised that even exists that way, like, so, yeah.
Thank you, and that's why I brought this forward. So all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. Moving on to 12.3, funding for the 2024 Municipal Equipment Operation Course. Resolution 63-24. Resolution, please.
Whereas municipal public works departments from across the province of Ontario provide invaluable services to our communities, ensuring health and safety of all residents. And whereas if it was not for our municipal public works employees from across the province of Ontario maintaining our public road systems, our communities would not be able to function as emergency personnel, could not respond to calls, school buses could not get our children to school, residents would not be able to get to work, school appointments, and many more basic functions would not be able to happen. And whereas municipal public works departments are already feeling the impacts of a labor shortage, which will only be exacerbated over the next 3 to 5 years, which will cause levels of service municipalities are able to provide to ensure the health and safety of our residents to decrease. And whereas there is currently no provincial-wide course that properly trains potential municipal public works employees, specifically relating to municipal heavy equipment. Therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Greater Madawaska supports the work of the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors to develop a municipal equipment operator course to address this issue, and that the Township of Greater Madawaska calls on the Province of Ontario's Ministry of Labour, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades to fully fund the municipal equipment operator course in 2024 through the Skills Development Fund, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ministry of Labour, Training, Immigration, and Skills Trades, David Pincini, MPP John Yakabuski, and the Association of Ontario Road Supers.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion items from council? Oh, we need a mover first. Doing it again today. Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Popke. And do we have background on it? Or was that the background? Oh, that's what I thought. That's why I went right to Steve. Steve, do you have anything to add?
I'll just mention that this was talked about at our Road Supervisor Association meeting, and they were looking for support on this, and myself included. I think it's getting harder to find young people with the qualifications to run some of this equipment, and there's not really any training available unless they pay out of pocket, and it's extremely expensive. And you kind of see people shying away from doing it because of that reason. So I think it's a great thing to do.
Thank you. Now I'll ask any questions, comments, concerns, or discussion items. I have one, and I'll open it up, but it'll change the resolution just slightly, in that I would suggest that if we do vote this positive, that a copy go to all municipalities in the province of Ontario, so that as we did with Tay Township and Sudbury to support their resolution, other municipalities could support this resolution.
So I've added that to the last paragraph.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to 12.4, request funding for Denby Griffith Lions Club. And do we have a, do we have a resolution attached to that? Because I don't see a number.
There is no resolution attached to that right now. So this has been submitted for the Denby Griffith Lions Club for council to support a donation of $1,000 for their car show. And so you could discuss it if you choose to do so. I have a resolution prepared.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Popke.
Didn't we do something very similar last year with the Griffith Lions Club? I think it goes a long way to help them out. It shows their support for the whole township, myself.
Thank you. Anything else? I will make a comment that I attended last year for the first time because I heard about it after we did the donation. It was extremely well attended. There were people from all over the province and the United States there, and some absolutely amazing cars, and some I went, okay. But the atmosphere was wonderful. It was of all ages. It included everybody, and it was a lot of fun. One thing I would ask, though, is if we do go forward with this, that I would ask that somewhere within their paperwork or their displays that we are acknowledged as a donator to that cause. I don't, if that's possible, Renee, that we could, I guess, on their pamphlets or some sort of recognition for our support of them. Any
Yes.
other? Anybody else? No, Renee?
So we'll add it as part of our response to the Lions Club. And then, so would you like me to read it?
Yes,
Motion?
please.
Yeah.
Yes.
That council approve the donation of $1,000 to the Denby Griffith Lions Club for the car show.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We are now at section 13.1, enter into closed session, resolution 64-24.
That the council meeting of March 21st, 2024 enter into closed session at 4:52 PM pursuant to section 293(2) of the Municipal Act regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, specifically causeway easement, B, Smiths and Lane.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke and second by Councillor Tripp. We are now moved into closed. Thank you. We are now moving to section 14.1, move to open resolution 65-24. Resolution, please.
That the council meeting of March 21st, 2024 move back into open session at 5:35 PM.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Tripp, second by Counselor Popke. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. We now move on to section 15.1, move to rise and report resolution 66-24.
That council reports the following as a result of closed meeting item. Litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, specifically A, causeway easement, received as information, B, Smithson Lane, received as information.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Popke, second by Counselor Thompson. All in favor? That is so carried. Section 16.1, bylaw approval, resolution 67-24.
Be it resolved that the following bylaws, 16-2024 zoning bylaw amendment 2306.5, even N, be deemed read a second and final time and passed by council, and furthermore, that 14-2024 confirmatory be deemed a first, second, and final time and passed by council at the regular council meeting held March 21st, 2024.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Popke, seconder. Counselor Thompson, all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. 17.1, motion to adjourn, resolution 68-24.
That the regular council meeting of March 21st, 2024 be adjourned at 5:36 PM.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Tripp. Do we have a seconder? Counselor Popke, all in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean.